we're going to start the show talking about what's been going on with you in quarantine. What is going on with your dreams? Yes, we're going to talk about dreams to start off Culture Shift, because I've certainly noticed weird dreams. Amanda LeClaire's in studio with me. You better believe she's got weird dreams on deck.
Ryan, you just did not give me a second there to think, but I don't know if anyone wants to know about my weird dreams. They go a little bit out there, but
okay,
we do have people on the line.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. We want to talk to you about your weird dreams and give you live dream analysis from Ian Wallace. He is a psychologist and dream specialist. He's actually been on the show before, and we're so excited to have him back all the way from Scotland. Ian, how are you?
I'm great, Ryan and Amanda. Thanks so much for the invitation again. I'm delighted to be back with you.
How have your dreams been faring as the world continues to turn and just be unprecedented every single day, Ian?
They're relatively okay, actually. So I, as you might imagine, spend a bit of time reflecting on my dreams. So everyone dreams. We all dream for about 2 hours per night. We spend a 12th of our life dreaming. And I give myself the luxury to indulge for a few minutes every morning when I wake up, just to run back through the dreams that I've been having and think what they might mean for me, and just get a bit deeper meaning out there, and possibly some indications of opportunities that I might want to engage with.
Ian, when we talked to you before, some of the main things that we went over were the ideas that our emotions are the most influential things in our dreams, right? It's not necessarily news headlines and things happening in the world, but what we feel about those things.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Ryan. So, as Benjamin Liebe and George Lakoff and Stanislas Dehaene have shown, all neuroscientists, psychologists, and cognitive linguists, is that at least 98% of our awareness happens unconsciously during the day. So even as you and I and Amanda are chatting and our lovely listeners are listening, we're only consciously aware of 2% of what is happening inside us, what Freud called our ideation, thoughts, ideas, emotions, and feelings. And so we absorb a huge amount of information every day emotionally, but we don't really process it consciously or objectively. So the fundamental function of dreaming is to engage with those emotions and make sense of them. And because our emotions are expressed through image, not just in our dreams, but in waking life. So if you're a bit angry with me, Amanda, you might say, Ian, I'm angry with you. And I think, no, you're just a bit disappointed. But if you say, I'm absolutely fuming at what you've done there, you've become a volcano. Or if you do that again, I will erupt. It's an even bigger volcano. Or if you think, oh, working with you, Ian, is so frustrating, it feels like I'm banging my head off a brick wall. We always use images, particularly linguistic images, to express our emotions. And that's exactly what happens in our dreams. They're not just streams of imagery, they're also fundamental flows of emotion.
Hey, Ian, I do have a question. Can you talk a little bit to this idea of dream logic, which I think is what you're getting to here, how dream logic works as opposed to normal logic in every day-to-day life?
Yeah, that's a great question. So dream logic is, I'm going to go slightly towards the philosophical tangent here, but there are two main types of logic. There's Aristotelian logic, which is step by step, very linear, very objective, and very analytical, and it's kind of a serial process. And then there's non-Aristotelian logic, which is non-linear, it's organic, it's not mechanistic, it's really organic. This is the way that your brain works. It works in this really organic, non-linear way. And fundamentally what your brain does, your brain simulates the outside world. Your brain would love to be a predictor and be able to predict things with certainty, but your brain is continually simulating the outside world, and we call those simulations stories. And when we dream, we are creating simulations, and we're running all sorts of different simulations at the same time. And so they may seem to be really illogical and really unpredictable, but what we're doing are taking things from our experience and representing them using imagery. So for example, if we are feeling really emotional about something, we often dream about water. And we have these linguistic images like pouring my heart out, floods of tears, I'm at a low ebb. So when you dream about water, say you dream of a tsunami, the 19th most common dream, there's something where you feel your emotions are engulfing you. So although the dream images may make no linear sense in waking life, they make huge sense in the way that your brain actually works in this massively parallel manner, creating simulations of who you've been, but more importantly, who you can become.
We're talking to Ian Wallace. He is a psychologist and dream specialist who's actually written the book on dreams. He's joining us from Scotland, and we want to get ready for live dream analysis with you. 313-577-1019. If you've been having strange dreams, we want to hear them, and so does Ian, so he can diagnose your dreams live on the air. 313-577-1019. I'm Ryan Patrick Cooper, and I'm joined by Amanda LeClaire.
Hey, and Ian, I just want to speak to what we were just talking about a little bit more because, Carl Jung was such a huge part in the 20th century of bringing dreams to more of the mainstream, analyzing them as something that means something to our growth as human beings, right? So you're mentioning water as our emotional capacity. And one thing that Jung always said was he had a dream once that he was in a house and he would go up to these different levels of the house and he found things at these different levels, and he compared this house to the subconscious, the conscious mind, the superconscious mind. I'm just wondering how is that the sort of thing that you're also talking about?
Yeah, absolutely, Amanda. So we the specific things, the objects, the people, places, events, and objects that we see in our dreams, we call them symbols. So these are the connections between our emotions and the imagery. And the number one dream symbol all around the world is a house. And the reason for that is houses have got insides and outsides, and so do we. So we use the inside of a house to represent our inner life, and all the rooms in the house represent different aspects of our inner life. So the lounge is where you feel sociable and you feel comfortable in that place. The bedroom is where you feel most private and intimate and comfortable and relaxed with yourself. The bathroom is where you go to understand your needs and get rid of stuff that you don't need. And what Jung was saying, and this comes out in many, many dreams, that if there's something happening in the basement, it's something fundamental to your life. And if there's something happening in the attic, this is up in your head. And usually people dream of ghosts in the attic. And these are possibility ghosts of who you think you should become. So every room in a house has a meaning. And the 9th most common dream is finding an unused room in a house. And when you find that unused room, you realize that you've got unused potential. You can develop this space, this aspect of your inner life, and do something amazing with it.
Ian, are you ready to start analyzing some of the dreams from our callers?
Yes, please. Looking forward to it.
This is really becoming one of my favorite things that we do on the show, and we're going to start off with Matthew in Raisinville, who has been very, very patient. Matthew, you are on Culture Shift.
Hi, thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Let's go ahead and unpack your dream.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, and I'll get right to it. So last week, I have a dream, and traditionally when I have a dream, I can see it either in the first person or the third person. But in this particular dream, it was almost if I was looking through a kaleidoscope, and then each one of the prisms, I was looking at the same scenario, not quite a memory, but definitely painted with the flavors of memory, where I was in my childhood home watching, observing our cat just playing. But then in each prism, the family cat, she was either at a different age or doing a different activity or different mood within all the various prisms of the kaleidoscope. And instead of my usual perceptions in the dream of the first or the third, they were happening. There was like 8 to 16 happening all at once. And it really stuck out in my mind, and it was memorable because that had never happened before, where I was experiencing so many almost different dimensions of generally the same thing all at once.
Matthew, that is an amazing kaleidoscope journey into your mind. Ian, he's talking about perspective in dreams. How do you unpack what he just brought to the table?
Yeah, Thank you so much, Matthew. This is a fabulous dream. It's so rich in imagery. It's really, really lovely. So when, in answer to Amanda's question, we were talking about Jung's view of the house. So when you dream about your childhood house, Matthew, you're actually thinking of fundamentally who you are, where you came from and your identity. So you're maybe thinking on some formative experiences from your early life. But you're also, as you search through your childhood house, with all these different perspectives, you're trying to really discover deep down who you really are, and that lovely childlike feeling of creating and being open, and almost that creative naivety that helps you just to get away from habitual behaviour patterns. And that's reflected in the kaleidoscope as well, because what a kaleidoscope symbolises, Matthew, is your ability to imaginatively work through any behavioural patterns that you have, any habitual behavioural patterns, and see how they colour your thinking in different ways. So when you're doing that, when you're looking at different ways you think and different ways you perceive things, you're actually stepping outside some of your cognitive biases and looking at that bigger picture, looking at all the different ways of looking at something. And the family cat in there, cats always symbolise independence and freedom, and do that in a really relaxed way. So it suggests that in your waking life, you're looking at what you could possibly do and looking at what you would do with independence and freedom, and where you could feel you could be more independent and free, and just looking at the different ways of doing that and looking through these different 8 to 16 ways of looking at that and stepping outside yourself. The Greeks had a word for this. They had a word for most things, but they had a word which is ekstasis, a phrase, and it means to stand outside yourself, and that's where we get the word ecstasy from. So that feeling of happiness, of being able to stand outside yourself, see who you really are, and then think, just get some of the filters away from how you perceive yourself and how you perceive other things, so you can feel really authentic and really, really true to yourself in waking life.
That's dream specialist and psychologist Ian Wallace joining us from Scotland, analyzing your dreams live on the air, and we'd love to hear from you. 313-577-1019. We're doing this because we've noticed our dreams just being more vivid this year with everything that's happening in the world, and we don't think we're alone in that. So give us a call, 313-577-1019, and Ian Wallace is great talent of instant analysis. Very, very cool to have him on air. And let's keep moving with the callers. Carol in Detroit, you are on Culture Shift. Carol, are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. Hi.
Hey, how you doing? Go ahead and unpack your dream.
Okay, my dream was I was driving, and it was daylight. And as I was driving, I was looking up at the sky and trying to keep my eyes on the road. And in looking at the sky, I got the feeling like I had seen something, and I was trying to make out what it was. And I kept driving, and I didn't know where I was exactly. But at some point, something said, you should stop. And so I stopped the car, and then I got out of the car, and I was walking around to see where I was alongside the car. And then something said, you should stop again. And when I stopped, I looked down, and I was right at the edge of a cliff, a long drop.
Whoa.
And I was like, oh, my goodness, if I had not stopped, I would have tumbled, And at that point, I woke up.
Wow. That, Carol in Detroit, I mean, did you wake up kind of with like a jolt?
It was kind of a jolt, yes.
Because sometimes...
And I remember when I woke up, I was thinking, what does that mean?
And then you counted down the days on the calendar before Ian Wallace got back on air with us. So, Ian, go ahead and talk about this really adventurous, scary dream that I self-control, maybe? That'd be my guess.
Yeah, this is a fabulous dream, Carol. It's really, really rich imagery again. So we've been saying that symbols connect our emotions to the imagery. So when you dream of driving, Carol, anything to do with driving is you thinking about your personal progress through life. And anytime we dream that we're in a vehicle, we see a vehicle, we're thinking about how we can get from where we are to where we need to go to. And anything to do with you driving and being at the wheel is about your personal ambition, your personal drive and ambition, and how you're making your way through life. When you're trying to keep your eyes on the road, suggests that you're trying to make that progress in a very practical way, in a safe and secure way, but you're also looking up at the sky, just trying to see that bigger picture of what's going on, and kind of like in Matthew's dream, just trying to get different perspectives and understand there's a bigger picture out there, there's more possibilities. The sky tends to symbolize your thoughts and ideas, Carol. So you're thinking of a bigger picture, really thinking on your thoughts. And then you hear that voice that you should stop. You need to stop maybe thinking about those things or pushing forward. So you stop the car, and then you get out of the car. And then when you are invited to stop again, you realize that you're at the edge of a cliff. And what a cliff means in a dream is that there's a sudden change in something. There's a sudden change in a transformation. So it suggests in waking life that you've been pushing ahead with something. You've got some ambition that you're driving forward. You're making a lot of effort to do that, to guide it really, really safely. But this is you just thinking, I need to see the bigger picture. I need to stop, not because the cliff is dangerous. It's because the cliff is saying, here's the opportunity, Carol. Just think about that bigger picture and think about where you really might want to go in your life. So we have lots of imagery associated with higher ground, with cliffs and mountains, things like being a high achiever or having lofty ambitions or raising your game or gaining the higher ground. So in that, you're just thinking about, with the ambitions you have in life, whatever they are, you're thinking about how can I achieve at a higher level and how can I do that in a safe way without causing any huge disruptions or changing my behaviors and what I'm doing in an abrupt fashion.
Ian, I could listen to you analyze dreams all day long. Just love it. Absolutely love it. Let's keep it moving to Candy in Detroit. Candy, you are on Culture Shift.
Hi, my name is Candy, and thank you for coming to the show. My dream was I picked up a baby and held him so close to my chest, and we both just began to gaze into each other's eyes for the longest period. I have no idea who this child is. I don't have any sons. It was a boy. And I just wondered what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, thanks, Candy. That's a lovely, gentle, emotional dream. Anytime we dream about a child, particularly a baby, people often think about it has something to do with a baby in real life. But again, what we encounter, what we create in our dreams, because the dreams don't happen to us, Candy, we create our dreams and everything we experience in them. What a baby symbolizes is an aspect of your character that embodies a labor of love and requires careful nurturing to fully develop to its true potential. So there's something in your waking life, Candy, where you've got an idea, that you've got a plan, something very, very close to your heart that you want to nurture and develop. And it might be a labor of love to start off with. But as you nurture and grow this idea, this passion, this plan, this project, then it will start to be able to look after itself. It becomes self-sustaining. And when you look into the baby's eyes and the baby is gazing back at you in that really, really profound way, you're really looking deep inside yourself and realizing that you have the ability to embody something that you really love and nurture it, nurture what your ambition is, but also to nurture yourself, to develop yourself, Candy, to your true potential.
Candy in Detroit, thank you so much for calling in with that dream. We're doing live dream analysis with Ian Wallace, who's a psychologist and dream specialist. And we're going to Pam in Howell. You are on Culture Shift.
Hi, this is Pam. I'm actually in Howell. I have this recurring dream randomly and recurringly for 15 years about my dog who passed away, the only dog I ever had. We don't have kids, but it always is that I'm not feeding her. I forget to feed the dog, and I don't realize it for a few days. It's very strange.
What do you think of that, Ian?
Thanks, Pam. That can be quite an unsettling dream. But again, we tend to think that our dreams are unusual or unique, and they are to a certain extent. But human beings, because we have kind of similar behavioral patterns, we tend to dream about same things and the same themes. So when you dream of a neglected pet, a neglected animal, it's actually the 56th most common dream, Pam. And although your dog's passed away, we were saying in Matthew's dream that a cat symbolizes independence and freedom in a kind of relaxed sort of way. What a dog symbolizes is unconditional love and affection, and that need to be with people and to be loved and cared for in return. So when you dream that you're not feeding your dog and you're not, you feel you're neglecting it, there's something in your waking life, Pam, where you need to just open up unconditionally about something, and maybe just disclose something, maybe feel a little bit vulnerable. And as you do that, you will find that people will give you unconditional love and affection in the same way that you give to people. And it's very easy to spend all your time looking after people and looking after their needs and giving them then affection. But what the dream is really saying, Pam, is that sometimes you neglect your own needs, and sometimes you need to unconditionally love yourself and give yourself lots of affection and give yourself a bit of Pam time.
Pam, I got to ask, what was your idea of that dream? What did you think it meant? Like, what were the kind of ideas you had before Ian broke it down for you?
It's so strange. Well, I didn't think of that, that's for sure, at all. I felt like I didn't get to save my dog, maybe. I don't know. I didn't think about it had something to do with caring for myself, you know.
Pam and Howell, thank you so much for the call, and I'm so glad we were able to give you some greater context into what that dream meant, because it sounds like it was a very unsettling dream to have, considering how close pets can be for us. We're going to take one more call on this as we wrap up our segment with dream specialist and psychologist Ian Wallace, and we're going to go to this dream. It sounds like an intense one, from Andrea in Detroit. You are on Culture Shift.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call. So I'm a mother of 4, and my children are adults now. And my dream was I was walking across a bridge, kind of one of those swaying-type bridges, and under me was a big, large body of water. And I kept picking my children up to somebody at the top of the land and handing them my kids. And I got to my 3rd child to hand him up, and he let go of my hand, and the bridge broke, and I watched him get sucked away into the water, and up came his little tiny suitcase. And this was right before my son got stationed to Hawaii.
Oh my God. Andrea, number one, thank you for calling in and sharing that very vulnerable dream. We appreciate that.
I can't go, and he's in a secret type job. And I just never know. I just know he's stationed in Hawaii, but I never know where he goes, and that scared me.
Andrea in Detroit, thank you again. Ian, a lot going on there. What do you take away from that?
Thanks, Andrea. So this is it's a common dream. It's the 17th most common dream that your children are in jeopardy. And you're actually using the bridge that you create in your dream, this swinging bridge, this precarious situation, to link through to your son's situation, your 3rd child in waking life. What a bridge symbolizes, Andrea, is a situation where you can resolve a dilemma by creating a lasting, a permanent connection between 2 apparently distinct areas of your life. So you want to regain that connection to your son and understand that he's okay and he's safe and secure. And that's all a mother ever really wants, really, is to know that our children are safe and secure and doing well. So that's what you're trying to do in the dream. And underneath the bridge is the thing we spoke about earlier, that anything to do with water is about emotions. So sometimes you feel that you are falling deeper and deeper into your own emotions because you want to be connected with your son. You want to create that bridge again, but you feel the bridge just now is quite precarious. So one thing you can do, Andrea, because a dream is just a dream until you put it into action, is when you go to sleep tonight, when you lay your head on the pillow, just imagine that bridge again, but pretend that you're a civil engineer and make the bridge much stronger and more connected. Make it a big concrete bridge or a big suspension bridge so it's really firm and stable. And as you do that, you will feel more connected with your son and you'll feel not so vulnerable in that connection.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
Andrea, how do you feel after having some of that analyzed? Is it a relief?
I feel I'm definitely going to do that because I need something to connect me with my son, because I know he's not going to be coming home. And it just scared me when his suitcase popped up. Do you have any insight to that, of why the little tiny suitcase just popped out of the water after he got sucked in?
So that's like a child's suitcase, Andrea. So yeah. What a suitcase symbolizes is your ability to convey what you really need rather than feeling weighed down by emotional baggage. So if there's any way that you can communicate with your son securely and just tell him what you really need, if there's anything that he can do to make you feel more secure rather than feeling that you're weighed down by that emotional baggage, you need to be able to convey that to him.
Okay. All right.
Andrea in Detroit, thank you again for joining us on this call and being so vulnerable. It is so vulnerable to call into a radio station and share your dreams, but that's kind of the community around Culture Shift that we like to build. We were talking to Ian Wallace. He's a dream specialist and psychologist. I'm Ryan Patrick Cooper. I'm with Amanda LeClaire. And before we let you go, Ian, we've got one more question for you.
Yeah, Ian. So, what I'm picking up from everything that we've heard this, in the last 30 minutes, and we've had you on before, when people have these dreams, they are vulnerable. We're sleeping. It's at night. We're alone in our own heads. But when you're connecting it to these more common themes, I guess, is there a takeaway here of for people to feel like maybe they're not so alone? They're sharing these themes with other people in their dreams?
Yeah, absolutely, Amanda. That's a beautiful perspective. That we're not alone. We are all human beings. We've got to look after each other and love each other, and we tend to think of our own lives as unique. But in every life, we stumble into each other's dreams, and other people stumble into our dreams. So when we're dreaming these common themes and patterns, they're all about really who we actually are, what we really need, and what we truly believe, and then understanding that. Because what the dream is really unfiltered consciousness. It's who you really are. The dream is the ultimate self-portrait. It's the ultimate selfie.